So I'm just going to use the opportunity and do it myself. I'm Nika, as you can see. Been here already last year, but I'm very happy to be back. This time I'm working also with A2 Jazz Festival as their sustainability manager, trying to see what the festival is doing in this direction. But I also have three panelists with me, Eric, Gwenn, and Lisa, and I would really like them to introduce themselves, just briefly what they do, and yeah, how they're feeling here. Go. Gwenn.
Hi everyone, so my name is Gwendoline Sharp. I come from France. I run an organization which I co-founded in 2016, which is called the Green Room, and we support the whole music sector on working on environmental issues, but also integrating, of course, social issues into our work.
My name is Eric Ritz. I'm from California in the US. And I run a nonprofit organization called Global Inheritance, and we work with school systems and film studios and music festivals and all that to design front-of-house programming, mostly around education and sustainability. And then I also design all the front-of-house programming for the Coachella Music and Arts Festival.
Hi, my name's Lisa Nasta. I run an award-winning musical instrument recycling project in the UK. Offering music education workshops at events with programs that have been designed to get kids into music quickly and learn quickly. And we're an ingrained part of Glastonbury Festival. And I'm also an area coordinator for Green Futures Fields at Glastonbury and head of production for the field. And basically, we're one of the off-the-grid fields that have been there for about 40 years now.
Thank you. So the title of the panel is Ecology of Music Festivals, and the subtitle is How to Accelerate the Green Transformation of the Festivals. Over the last 10, maybe 15 years, we've seen quite a bit of movement at music festivals when it comes to sustainability. I think quite large movement, to be honest. There was a lot of waste management initiatives. There is an energy use initiative, transportation, food and beverage, water usage. We're using now eco-friendly products also in merchandise and so on. And each of the panelists here really has quite an impressive story what they did in their career tackling these objectives. So first of all, I would like Gwenn to speak about the studies that she conducted on the topic of mobility. So I would like to give a cue to the people up there for the slides, Gwenn's slides.
Okay, no worries, then we'll do without. Talking about environmental issues, so maybe just so you understand where I'm talking to you from. With the organization, we are working on different levels. One is about awareness raising and about training. So we train all the stakeholders from the music sectors, from the musicians, but also working with local authorities, and really about understanding first. And it's going to have quite a lot of links with the previous panel about numbers. So one thing is really to understand what are the impacts, so it's also looking at data. But it's also looking at what are the risks that we are facing. And I had actually really nice pictures to show you, but...
But I think they're going to solve it, because I think Theodora went upstairs to share, hopefully.
And as I was saying before, it's also about looking at things in a very systemic way. The idea is really not to give any lessons to anyone, and it's really not about putting too much pressure on the cultural sector, but still we know that we are really highly dependent on all other sectors. We are not in a little bubble. And we could experiment this quite a lot during COVID, of course, when everything stopped. And I always like to say that in the music sector, we are super good at DIY, at solving problems when they appear, but sometimes we're not so good at having a very prospective, and I would say even like risk assessment vision of what could happen. And sometimes we can also say that maybe what we experienced during COVID could be some kind of repetition or was it some kind of training of what could happen with the environmental crisis. We see that very much at festivals being very impacted by extreme weather events, by all kinds of rising in prices, for instance, being, for instance, very dependent on flying. So when tickets rise, because it's very much linked on the prices of fossil fuels, and this is going to get worse and worse. This is not a secret. And also the impact on insurance, for instance. Being in California, you know that very well, that you even have people that cannot insure their houses anymore because the risk of having wildfires or extreme weather events are so high that the insurance doesn't want to cover this. This is happening already for some festivals as well. So the idea around this is really to think in a prospective way and not to say that the cultural or the music sector has to carry all the burden, but really to prepare better and to defend what we believe in, be it the mobility of artists, be it intercultural encounters, be it fair payment for artists, etc. And this is why my entry point is the environmental issues. And talking about mobility, so we have different studies, and for those of you that were there last year, there was a presentation about a project called Better Life.
There is
Okay, then I'm going to skip because, you know,
now it's easier.
I will share my slides after. Maybe just to give you also a bit of context, it's better with pictures. I don't know if you know this, but this is from a very economical point of view of looking at things. This is the economical donut from a researcher called Kate Werroth. And this is actually showing like the ceiling, be it the ecological limits that we shouldn't cross as a society, but we can see a festival having to stay in those green limits. And what's the base, like our ground, are also all the social values that we all share. And sometimes we will work very much on environmental issues. We all know like festivals that are being very vocal about being involved on environmental issues, but probably if you dig in, you will see that maybe they are not so good on social issues. Even sometimes you have some, just to give you an example, for instance, that now, especially from a Eurocentric context and Western European context, we are pushing very much artists to take the train, to travel for a longer time. This has different impacts in terms of costs, but for instance, it can also increase some pre-existing inequalities. If you are in charge of children, for instance, can you allow yourself actually to travel on a longer time? Who is paying for the additional days? All those questions are very much interlinked. And you see that some ideas that can be felt as being good ideas for the environment might have negative impacts on the musicians, but also on festivals, on social issues. So this is also to give you some framework and to explain how we work on that. Another issue about mobility is very much linked to social justice and to climate justice. We know that the global majority in the world is the one that is being the most impacted by the consequences of climate change, and most of the time they are the less responsible for it. So this is a question of responsibility also, and how we look at mobility of artists in the world. Again, speaking from my perspective and from my country, where we hear more and more festivals saying like, now our solution to environmental issues are that we are going to invite only artists that can come by train. Obviously, this is excluding, and you know very well being here, also the situation with trains, but this is excluding the large majority of artists in the world. And this is also impacting way more than just the mobility of one artist. Coming back to what happened during COVID, we could all experiment that. Just to give you one example of a band that you might know called Imaran. They are based in Algeria. when COVID happened. This is a band that depends very much on touring in Europe, but mostly in Canada and the US. And when everything stopped, so of course they couldn't travel. They didn't have anything to be able to stream online for good qualities. The offers that were made to them were either to play for free or not being paid. So they had to go back to just digging for gold and do like some crappy work, which probably have way more environmental impact than touring the world. Again, some ideas, preconceived ideas. I actually worked quite a lot in the US about sustainable touring for artists. And my theory, so I still haven't proved it with numbers, but it's probably that an artist, an American artist that's going to tour Europe mostly by train and by van is going to have way less impact than if they tour in the US, where they just fly almost every day. So it's this change of perspective also is quite important when we have the conversation. And first thing is probably to have this conversation with the people that are most concerned. This you probably know also, it's quite well known. You were mentioning also quite a lot of those impacts. Also to give some perspectives, on the top right, this is like Rammstein touring in Europe. Of course, if you put the focus on artists touring by train, but then if they have like 40 trucks behind them, and that's a bare minimum, like we have artists touring now in Europe with 100 trucks, sometimes one truck just full of washing machines, because the tour is so intense that they need to wash their clothes on the way. This is the actual reality of touring. Then the impact you can see is really at a different place. Private jets, we had a festival in Marseille lately that cancelled an artist that had one gig in Marseille and one gig in Berlin the same night. He decided that he will keep both gigs and travel to Marseille by private jet. The festival said this is not acceptable anymore for us to invite artists traveling by private jet. Last one, Wonderland in Belgium. That's, well, maybe you cannot see, but that's actually all the stairs in mosaics covered by plastic. This is very visible, but when you look at carbon footprint, this is a very small amount of the impact in terms of numbers. The biggest impact is the mobility of audience, and that counts for between 75 and 90% of the impact of the festival. The bigger the festival, of course, the bigger the attraction, the bigger the scale, the geographical scale. So you will have more and more audience coming by plane. So that's why it's totally exploding the carbon footprint. How much time do I have, Sel? Yeah. Just sharing some numbers also specific to the jazz and improvised music sector. This was done by a project. You have some people here that participated, like Bogdan, and you have Frank from Beamhouse as well. This was a way also to advocate for the fact that in the end, in Europe, the jazz and improvised music sector doesn't have a very big impact if you compare it to huge festivals, but they want to play their role, let's say, in that. And they also want to show that in a prospective way they took their own measures on their side, and also to have those numbers to really understand. So these are a comparison between venues and festivals. Most of them are in France, rural or urban context, small festivals, small venues, big festivals, and you also have Beamhouse and Oslo Jazz Festival in this. And this is very much also about risk management and risk assessment for festivals. It's also part of the responsibility. Peter was talking about the fact that here, for instance, this event is happening because we have public funding. When we come from a country like mine, where we are lucky enough until Monday, let's see how the political situation goes, but at least for now we still have a very big support for the cultural, and we receive a lot of public funding. It goes with a responsibility as well on playing our share in this. Burning Man example, that's the image of a lot of festivals that are actually, in the DNA, very much concerned about environmental issues, but in the end, when you attract so much audience, and this is really like the way to Burning Man, this is the biggest impact. So what we are doing right now is studying to understand better how the audience is coming to festivals and to venues, and also to understand what are the impacts of different size of events. And what we've seen, so this example is about music venues actually in France, but what you can see is like, as I was saying before, the bigger the capacity, the further away the audience is coming from. And this is just for 1,400 capacity venue, so you can imagine how this goes with big festivals. This is also to understand where you can put your efforts. If, for instance, you have a lot of your audience that is coming from a nearby city where you have a train connection, but you realize that they are coming by car, maybe you can put your efforts there rather than if you have just 200 people coming from the middle of the countryside where they have actually no other possibilities to reach your venue. So this is also to better understand where the efforts come from. That was my image from the risk-taking when COVID happened. Two options. One was this concert for green plants in Barcelona that was also streamed online. The second one was like every member of the audience coming alone by car. And
I still think this is one of the most bizarre images that I've seen in my life.
But this is about adaptation also. When something happens, how do you adapt? And this is really not only about mitigating our carbon footprint, but it's also how do we adapt to this new reality? How do we keep organizing festivals when it's 45, 50 degrees outside, when even like technical equipment is not surviving, and what's the conditions for the technicians working there, for the artists, of course. So yeah, and I will finish on one thing. So also relating to some of the political injunctions that we have now. This is a definition that came out very recently from the EU. So it's not official definition from the EU. It was commissioned, but still we know how very fast we do with copy-paste. This is the definition of green mobility. When I first read it, it made me really angry. I get angry very easily but on those subjects, but this one was... for me, this is a definition of low-carbon transport, this is supposed to reach the European cultural community. We are talking about hydrogen cars. Do you know how to organize a tour with hydrogen cars? Because I don't, so I would be very interested. And this is very much, I'm being censored by the EU. But just to share...
Peter is doing that on purpose, you know it.
The next slide is actually, I'm working with a network that you might know, and if you don't, I'm going to change your life. Check it out. It's called On the Move. And it's a network working on international mobility of artists and cultural professionals. And we proposed actually another definition for green mobility, and really talking about all the implication. It's not just the responsibility of the person who's buying the ticket to go somewhere. And there are so many reasons. It's not just to go and play somewhere, but you travel to attend a meeting like this one, you travel to learn something, you travel to meet other people, etc. And it's about the responsibility also of the funders. Who is funding those mobilities has also to take their responsibility on that, and also all the ethical, etc. Last one, it's about also co-benefits. This is something that is coming out from the IPCC report. It's very much about the benefits of working on environmental issues that can have social benefits, economical benefits as well. One example, for instance, is this. So it's pre-COVID, but it was about rerouting a tour of an artist. And you can see that it's lowering the number of kilometers. It's lowering the number of CO2 that is being emitted, but it also has some financial advantages to this. And sometimes we always see like working on environmental issues as being more costly. This is true as well, but the prices are going to be higher and higher the more we wait for taking some decisions, but it can be reversed. And last example about that also is about one project that is called Jazz Migration, which is supporting emerging artists in the jazz and improvised music sector in France. And we compared the tour of 2022 and 2023. And I kept it in French because I think you still need to practice your languages and to keep it more interactive. But anyway, I think it's quite readable that you have the same number of concerts between the 2 years. You have the same number of musicians, even a little higher, so 12 musicians in 2022, 14 in 23. And just by rerouting also and rethinking a bit the way of touring, staying a bit longer, and having the musicians being paid, of course, for everything that they were doing on the tour, we could lower by 30% the amount of CO2 emissions. And this included a tour in Indonesia and tour in the Baltic states also, and Scandinavia, where we also know that it's difficult to travel without flying. So this is also about those co-benefits that, and when you assess also after and have those discussions with the musicians, with the hosting festivals and venues, that it has also benefits on mental health, on financial equilibrium of the tours as well. So, yeah. Of course, there are way more issues, but it was just to give you a few insights into this and to open up the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you. I think financial constraint is really definitely one of the ones probably one that will be the easiest one to persuade somebody with the initiative. But our second panelist here, Eric, is a person who has really a lot of experience with engagement of the audience, which I think is really a very important factor as well, because from my point of view, basically making audience part of the solution rather than just part of the issue, and the communication around this is super important. And I hope we have presentation also from him. We don't? What about the photos? Also no? Theodora, photos? I've sent everything quite well in advance. Anyway, Eric is working on with various different things for the past quite a lot of years. I'm not going to say it because that could have different implications, but Coachella is one of the things that you were very engaged to. And there are two very interesting projects called Carpoolchella and Plastic Surgery. And since we don't have your videos, unfortunately, which were very cute, by the way, but you can check them on Instagram, I would just like you to explain in words what you're doing, what you were doing, and the impact of it, because it's very interesting.
Yeah, not a problem at all. And I guess we're at the use our imaginations because the photos and all. But yeah, check out the either the Global Inheritance Instagram account or we have a great Flickr site of programming from the last 20 years. So anyhow, what I want to kind of talk about today, because I feel like everybody in the audience is either an event producer, festival producer, or is involved in some level of event production. And we design, our goal is sort of to get people to stop and listen and be engaged. And what's different is is the audiences in the venue, right? And so we work on a lot of festivals beyond just Coachella, and every festival has their challenges, especially when it comes to sustainability. And so, but we all like to judge, we all like to compare each other, right? And we always look at other people and say, well, they have more resources, or they have bigger bands, or whatever it might be. And really, it doesn't, I think what you need to do is kind of judge your efforts by not only your event itself, how many people are attending, who your audience is, and then what is feasible with the resources that you have. Because a lot of the stuff, for example, that we do at these big festivals, it's not very expensive to activate. What's really important is the energy and the passion you put behind the programs, and then just getting, and then making sure the programs fit the audience. So Nika was mentioning before a couple of our programs. So one program that we launched in 2007 is called Coachella, right? And so we were having an issue with the festival with traffic and everybody kind of coming in at the same time. And then it's gridlock, and then people aren't enjoying the bands that they love because they're trying to get to the parking lots and get in the venue, and they're having a hard time because that's what happened when you have a very large music festival with everybody driving. And again, going back to comparisons, Coachella is not a city festival in the middle of Europe. You really can't access it unless you're living nearby where you could maybe bike. But it's really a driving festival. So it was really important to us to kind of promote carpooling because that was an easy way to get fewer cars on the road. And so basically we created a prize and you could win VIP Coachella passes for life, right? And so people, of course, were very excited to win that. And all you had to do to participate is to have 4 more people in your car and to write Coachella on your car. And then we would have secret spotters throughout the venue to go and spot and reward people. And then they would draw for, not everybody won VIP for life, of course, but we'd have other great prizes that they could experience on site. And so what we found was people definitely wanted to kind of like up their game and kind of take, especially with their sort of their squad or the group of people they're going, and they started to redesign their cars. So they were driving with Coachella written across the front, the sides, or over the entire body of the car, and driving from all places around, from Southern California all the way to like Chicago or New York. And so it was really incredible to see these people sort of promoting carpooling as they were traveling across the country, or even just traveling from Los Angeles or San Diego or another close by city. And for us, that was really the powerful part. It was not only were you saving money by carpooling and supporting the environment, but you were basically doing a communication sort of a campaign to promote it. And again, so for some, in the big scheme of things, and this is, the world, every day we look at what's happening with the climate emergency, we're like, wow, we need to do more than just carpooling. But for a lot of people who have spent a lot of money to be in an event, you got to make it easy for them, and you got to make it fun for them, and you got to create community. And so something like this is like they could do it together. They can win these great prizes. We have a ton of stuff online where capturing people winning at that moment, winning the prize, or just designing their car and taking pride in that. And it was just a very simple program that pretty much any festival could do. I mean, we weren't putting a lot of resources into it. It was resources we already had, but the impact of it was phenomenal. Another program, we actually don't run this at Coachella, but we've run it for other events, and it was something that we did during the pandemic. And that program is called plastic surgery, right? So we live in LA, and plastic surgery, of course, is very popular in Hollywood and throughout the entertainment industry. And so we thought it was a kind of a fun play on words to go and sort of inspire people to find new ways to cut out plastic out of their lives. So what we did is we had sort of like zero waste experts become the plastic surgeons, and we had people check in and do an inpatient form on their plastic habits, what the relationship with plastic was like at school, at the office, at home, in the kitchen, when they travel and such not. And then we had our doctors go and assess their challenges and give them real advice, and then write a prescription for a plastic-free pharmacy. So when we were doing this at events, we'd actually create a pop-up doctor's office and then also a pop-up plastic-free pharmacy. So people would go and find plastic alternatives real-time at the event that they could start using. Which again, it was something where we didn't know what the response would be like. And it was incredible to see just people's, of all sort of like backgrounds, their excitement for wanting to create change in their life that was personalized based on their reality. And that's what I think that we do as, let's say, for Global Inheritance, and what we try to do with a lot of our partners, is try to make it easy for people to kind of plug in. And I know that every audience is different, right? And some audiences are more progressive than others, or are more dialed in, and others are a little bit more, let's say, clueless, or not necessarily thinking about it day in and day out. So what we really try to do is like, what's something that it doesn't seem too aggressive, especially if you're in a paid event, right? You spend a lot of money, you've taken time off of work maybe, or school, and you're spending your hard-earned cash, is making it something where it's fun for them, or it's something that's shareable. So for Coachella every year, for the last 20 years, we design recycling bins, right? We give artists VIP passes who may not be able to afford the festival otherwise to design the bins. We do a big collection, and then we make it be a big interactive art walk for people on site. We do things like energy playgrounds where people can go and power their phones. So design studios attached to speaker series where people listen to talks by different scientists or celebrities or people that are in the know with environmental social issues, and they create poster art around that. And then we have professional artists redesign those. And they're all very easy things for people to plug in. That could be any kind of activity there, but it has the ideas of sustainability or activism are woven into it. And I think that's like for 20, I'm old, I've been doing, charity concerts.
We all are.
Yeah, since like the early 90s at university, that's how I kind of got started in this. But you can give people an experience that will last them a lifetime. Like I've seen it firsthand, where if people aren't being told what to do, or it's not big, you're not banging them over the head, and they have a really nice experience, they look at it differently. And I think so much of it, again, most of my experiences are based on the U.S. and Canada, where we do most of our activations. But you can see the light bulb go off. You can see people really want to do more. And again, I've seen the sustainability movement go up, and I've seen it get wiped out from the global housing crisis. But I think this time around, it seems like it's here to stay, and there's so many opportunities for people. But I think that there is a sense of urgency, but I think we have to really respect our audiences and figure out what's realistic for them. What are the challenges we have at that venue, and really put that energy into those experiences.
But yeah, saying all that, we have a little game for you all when we finish the talk. So we're gonna use about 15 minutes of your time to have a little think tank, because we want to do pretty much what Eric was saying now, also on A to Jazz model. So don't run away when we finish. We have some work to do. It's gonna be fun. And now to Lisa. Lisa has been working on Glastonbury for quite a while now on one of the green fields. And I would really like to share her story as well, what Glaston's done, being the biggest festival in the world, more or less, in this direction.
Yeah, well, the Greenfields have been around for 40 odd years now, and there's 10 fields, and they're completely off the grid. They've been solar powered, kinetic powered, all sorts of green energy powered for that long. I remember years ago when I first went, you could buy a smoothie, but you had to cycle power the smoothie machine. So, they've evolved with all of that, but I think the main job of the fields is to educate on how you can be off the grid and run an event, and educate, and the best way to do that is to sow the seeds with the audience, because running around an event being green police telling people off is just not going to work. So what we really did is we've done a bunch of experiments over the years where when you get to the green fields, like, you can take your shoes off and walk around without any shoes on because it's that clean and tidy. And the reason is because the people come in with that concept of looking after each other and being a community and looking after the land and recycling and all of that stuff. So we did an experiment because one of the problems that the festival has, being so big, attracting so many people, is the clean-up. So we did an experiment before COVID, actually, called the Village Greens. And it was a really interesting result. If you get an aerial photo of the event when it's finished, you will see fields and fields of rubbish and mess. And what we tried to do was encourage people to come in and be part of a community. So we built like a little camp zone in one of the public fields, public camping fields, and we put a team of people in that zone. People could sign up before they arrived to the festival to be part of a community. So if they were coming on their own or in twos, and what the object of this was to not just encourage them to look after each other, keep the campsite tidy, you know, and the obvious, but it was also to police their own zone and keep everything clean and tidy and not litter and tidy up at the end. And it was really incredibly successful. And also, like, if you're 6 different camping groups, you don't know each other, and you've got 6 different tents, you're making a cup of tea, these little gas bottles get wasted. And what we found is that people were then, oh, well, I've got hot water, use mine. And it became a real community with people that didn't know each other. And when they did the aerial photograph at the end, this was the tidiest campsite. So it's really interesting what you can achieve by getting the public to do the work together, because then they naturally start self-policing. And then, you know, I mean, obviously Glastonbury's led a number of projects from reducing plastic with traders, bringing policies in for procurement and all sorts of things, so that, you know, the traders are not allowed to sell plastic anymore. And they've done a bunch of things like that, which obviously they have to do. But then, you know, they're still fighting the battle. Carpooling is an obvious one that they've done as well. But they're still fighting the battle of transportation on the site itself. So this year we were all asked to reduce the amount of vehicle movement on the site and the amount of vehicle passes we could give crew and artists. So we then had to think about how we move them around and how they carry all this heavy gear around. So they brought a shuttle system in, and it's very effective, and it's kind of funny as well, because you see like a tractor with a cart and people want to get on it. But actually it was very, very effective. It meant there was less traffic on the site, less, well, the traffic's insane, of course, but there was less traffic on the site. That meant there was less gridlocking on the site. People could get on and off quicker, which meant that reduced the overwhelming stress of being stuck in it. And I guess, you know, really there's just a lot of projects that we've put in place over the years, and the concept of the field that we are in is to have campaigners in the field, to let people who might not ordinarily go to a green field come from the main areas and leave with a little, you know, bit of knowledge that might change the way they think in everyday life when they leave the event. And that could be from how they choose to shop, if they're, you know, going to go for, because of, you know, we have our crew T-shirts and we have our field T-shirts, and they're organic, they're locally sourced, but we still make sure that the product is, you know, ethical dye, ethical cotton, green dye, etc., made from plant or you know, products. And it's just one of those things that we can't sell that if we're not doing it. So we have to practice that so that people understand that this is real. This is the only way to move forward. You know. So yeah, I think it's sowing the seed and getting the people to do it.
Thank you. Questions? Come on. I don't want to stretch it too long because we started really a little bit late. But I do have some conversation topics just briefly. What do you think is the most important part of the festival's sustainability directive? Is it water? Is it food and beverage? Is it transport? What is it, by your personal opinion, that's the most painful to tackle for an international festival, for example? Because local festivals have their own topics, but international festival, medium size. Take it away.
Sure, I'll go first. I think it's, you know, again, I run a nonprofit, so I'm very focused on trying to get messaging out to attendees. And I'll tell you this, it's a million times easier now than it was 25 years ago to get them to do anything because they didn't think it was like rock and roll or cool. That's changed a bit, but it's still always a fight. So it's either like the location of the nonprofits or the programming on site, how easy or accessible it is for people to get there or to experience it. Any kind of messaging. There's a lot of messaging. There's a lot, social media is such a powerful tool, but they have also sponsors or other things they have to do for social media. So it's the prioritize, because you can create all the programs all day long and the information, but a lot of times, like unless you're unless you're really into sustainability, you're probably not looking at all those spots. So it's like trying to push that sustainability messaging to the overall festival audience and getting the producers to agree and to do that as much as they can.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, but I also think it's about sharing. Like when you look at a site like Glastonbury, there can be an incredible amount of waste just because, they've got backstage curtains for one bar and another stage, and we've got WhatsApp groups now across the site where people will put in that group, does any stage need this, and we'll literally be sharing stuff across site, and I think that just putting that in place means that you're not wasting, you're not going off and buying unnecessary extra things, but also working with as many people in the local community as possible, because again, we share equipment across the site, we share it across our field, all our stages know what surplus stuff we have, and if acts are coming from abroad, do they actually need to all bring instruments? So we'll provide as much backline as possible, including the hardware and all the other stuff. And reducing the load that people have to bring in really helps. So again, if acts are coming from abroad, we're providing tents and bedding and all of that, just to reduce that extra cargo and baggage. But I think sharing is a really important thing, and those kind of policies. It'd be incredible to see a local venue communicating with a festival and seeing what resources they have and how they can help. Because otherwise you're going out of your region to get things because the event's so big and you don't actually need to. And the impact of that is actually quite high.
Well, I would add to that it depends what we are talking about, really, because, of course, if we talk about ecological issues, it's not only about climate change and carbon issues. And probably biodiversity is a topic that is not being tackled enough by festivals, and water. That is going to be one of the biggest topics in the coming years, and we see it, like, for instance, like Barcelona. They are in time of drawn emergency, and this is also a question for festivals. Where do you prioritize do you use this water for the festival comers or for local agriculture, for instance? And in terms of carbon footprint, I think it's the question of the size of the festivals that is a question that is not being asked. And we were talking before about numbers, about how we evaluate festivals. Now we have more and more events that refuse to communicate on the number of attendees, because they say their value is not about that, and they are sick about this keep growing, keep being bigger and bigger, and the most amazing shows, and it has to be the biggest names and biggest blah 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 to sell out and this. And maybe this is a real question that has to be asked, because then it goes together with so many other issues that go just beyond the environmental one. So I would say that.
Thank you. So we've been talking now a lot about the past and the current situation, but where do you see the future of festivals, music festivals or music events, let's say 5 to 10 years from now, in terms of what we are speaking? Is it going to get more complicated? Is it going to get more strict? We've also been talking a lot about insurances and force majeure and natural disasters that are happening to festivals and so on. So, but what's your perspective on things 5 to 10 years from now? And then we're going to wrap it up.
I think it comes down to planning. I mean, if in the future we've got these issues, sharing the information that these events and then, you know, everybody has, depending on the backgrounds and the climates in general that they used to put in events on. But I think it really just comes, a lot of it is going to come down to planning and how much advanced planning you can do to reduce the problems, you know. But it's a really hard question. I mean, who knows?
I mean, I'm excited for all these festivals now, or not, a lot of the bigger international festivals. You can now you can watch it from your home, and you can have that experience. And I think the future is not only just the music, but some of the programming. Glastonbury has so many cool programs on site, and be able to say, you know, in the future, be able to interact with some of that programming during the music sets or before. And I mean, we're looking at it with some of our festival partners too. It's like, if we have this captive audience around the world, how can we use that platform to message and bring new ideas or to educate? So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it's a really tough question because it's not, I think more local festivals. We don't have to travel that far are probably going to be the future for us, and then maybe a couple of big ones that we can all experience and enjoy online.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer directly to your question because I'm not very optimistic and I don't want to kill the mood of everyone. But I would share something that we do quite a lot and something that you can do with your audience, which is really great, is about involving your audience about imagining the future of your festival. And we have like different scenarios. And you imagine what the festival will be in 2050. And scenarios being very about degrowth and like really strong legal constraints, for instance, where you cannot travel by plane anymore or the prices are super high and you cannot use any fossil fuels, to the total opposite, be absolutely relying on technologies for everything. And then you see like the imagination of your audience is amazing. And this is super cool exercise to do with your team audience. You can involve your partners, local authorities. And this is going to bring a lot of ideas and to help you think also forward. And I think the most important for me is acceptability. Anyone is going to take some decisions, and we have many examples, like, for instance, Shambhala in the UK, when they decided to cut any meat at the festival, like to do. And that was a decision they took the risk for it, and they didn't know if it would be accepted or not. So they had quite a lot of resistance from the technicians, but it was a super interesting experiment. It worked, but sometimes you can take some decisions and it might not work with your audience, or it's going to totally kill the local ecosystem that you built for so many years. And that's really interesting. And there are some experiments which are going quite extreme, like how do you organize a festival without any fluids? No electricity, no water, nothing. Or only 2 hours of electricity during the day. This is the reality in many countries in the world, by the way. So, and this can be our future as well. So the more you're going to prepare for that, I would say the more, experiments you can try.
So I think the final words would be like, it's not about being perfect, because obviously that's like not going to happen, but it's about a little step that each and every organizer, promoter, even the city or organization doing a festival or just any event at all is, this is basically the final words. So now I'm going to need some help from the organization to set up the groups. Don't go anywhere.
So it's already very.
They're great. And they're the most effective.
They're like combos that work.
Integrated, but as far as like it's just,
From him to the not sure. Like if it's A to the O to the O to the just minute. A to the C to O to
I think it's quite good. Quite good. All right. Time to wrap it up because we want to go to the festival. I'm kidding. So I suggest that we plug in again all the mics and just share it with the groups. Please, Gwenn, just give it.
Well, our task was to come up with a catchy slogan that promotes sustainability at events and create a colorful poster for it. But we didn't have time for the poster, so we got the slogan though. I think it's very cute. So it goes like this. Lord help me. A to the C, O to the Z, A to just support sustainability. Good work.
Please.
Yeah, we have different ideas. I think that we need more time and more people. And what we did is like we used A to jazz, like an alphabet from A to jazz, and we were thinking about Z. And we were thinking about thoughts that it's not about it's not about jazz only. So the slogans is A to jazz, more than jazz, or A to jazz, not just a jazz. A to jazz, not all about jazz. Also, we were thinking about the messages, and it was words like inspiration here, music, and people. Maybe we can use it like A to jazz, music, inspiration, people, something like that. Or, and yeah, with something with the
from A to Z and then again, which is
like kind of a loop.
A to Z and then jazzability. So you're able and able to change.
Never stops, for example.
Okay, so we have two options. So I kind of came up with the idea for the carbon cycle, but we couldn't really visualize it because we don't have time. So that's what we did. And then we added a quotation: "Don't be blue, be green." So don't be sad, be green. And then I added the A to jazz, like they're saying it. You know, the festival is saying, "Don't be blue, be green." And then the other one, the better option, obviously, fuck trash. And I think you should. It was his idea, and he has experience, and it's in your face, and that's what a slogan is about. So this is our slogan. I mean, we should, yeah.
It has a nice tattoo on it, so it's also can work with metal festivals, I guess. No.
Is it our turn? Yes. Our mission, job, our task was to make an eco-friendly menu for the festival, and that was very difficult. And we have vegan and vegetarian options because, let's be honest, meat is not very sustainable these days. Maybe it used to be. So for appetizers, for the vegan options, we called it three-colored dip, which is traditional Bulgarian lutenica. I hope it's sustainable because it's delicious. And then I guess we set on something green would be, help me out. Something with cucumbers, they're green, thank you. And then the white from the flag, if you don't know, the Bulgarian flag is white, green, and red, and we're going for that wordplay. And the white is something made with Bulgarian cheese, like a cream cheese thing, you know. The vegetarian option for an appetizer is simple tartar in a paper cup, maybe with a straw, depends on the person. And the straw wouldn't be plastic straw. You know, no straw, forget it, just drink from the cup. We just changed our opinion as a team, I decided. Um, another vegan option for an appetizer, soup in a bowl made out of bread. Because the biggest part about eating and not being sustainable is probably all the silverware made out of not silver, obviously. You know, all the things you eat with, dished up plates. So yeah, the soup would be made from seasonal vegetables from local farms around Sofia, which is easy to find in Bulgaria, fortunately. For main dishes, it was the toughest part for our team. And we came up with a stuffed potato, you know, like in Subway, you can put whatever you want in it. So it might be vegan, it might be vegetarian, but no meat. No, we don't offer it. And for desserts, the vegan option is just simple fruit salad in a paper cup or bowl with seasonal fruits and traditional Bulgarian pumpkin pastry, aka tikvenik, because yeah, the foreigners should know. That's what we came up with.
Two more things. I think it's working much better if it's combined with like a full package. Okay, the food is there, food is a necessity, we will have it, but if you offer, for example, like cooking class for kids, or not only for kids, for parents with kids, or for example, invite some people who are from the gastronomy industry and they are sharing their experience, if they transit to more plant-based meals, what this brings to their, new areas of experiment. Or we can organize treasure hunt for fruits, because a lot of trees right now are having their fruits. Why not to eat like naturally, like just fresh from the branches? Can be like adventure, like set up. So many more things aside of the food. Food is the basic, and then we build together with it.
Amen.
Peter, you want to say some final words? We can wrap it up. He started to be very shy.
It's like, yeah, more and more shiny each day, each next day. Friends, you are amazing. Thank you very much for all this inspiration that you gave to our audience to create this amazing stuff. I really love this fuck trash. I mean, you too. It's actually, this is the first time I see, and thank you very much for this idea, Nika. This is the first time in my festival career I see that a group of people so inspired, they are thinking something consistently about A to Jazz regarding about the sustainability, and I'm super emotional now, honestly, about this. So thank you very much. I mean, yeah, this is my first time, honestly. So, and I don't know what to say, but it would be great if we have much more moments together and to involve another more and more young people in actually groups like this, and workshops even for. We were talking about festival culture. We were talking about how to organize. We had a panel about the concept, festival concepts. How to create you have an idea, then you move to a concept, then it's moved to a plan, then it's moved to a evaluation and investment and execution, and all these processes we saw in some of the presentations. So everything what we discussed those 2 days is actually super important, fundamental topics about organizing a festival. This was the full aspect of a festival as a cultural product. So don't forget that culture and arts are actually a product, because we are. I am, as a musician, I'm producing my music. So it means it's part of kind of a industry actually. So because I'm selling, even I go to play on the street, it's also a business. I'm trying to get some to satisfy people and to get money to buy food. So it's a work. And yeah, what I wanted to say is that it would be great if we start actually think tanks and workshops with young people talking together about. I don't want to talk about festivals actually. It's much better to have something come to the festival, whatever it is, A to Jazz or Meadow Days or anyway, and be inspired. But after that, the inspiration should go on paper to be rethink on the next day or next week, and to be improved as an idea, and to go on from an idea to a concept, and then to be professionalized. Is that correct? Yeah. So it would be great if we do more things like this, in order to educate actually young people how to do festivals properly. Because we're in Tuesday I go on older, and we need young people after us. Thank you so much. Thank you. From all words I said, I wanted to say that we have all your emails. Thanks to your, thanks to that you gave us to us, so we can stay in touch.
Yeah, of course.
Could we get everyone who just did the workshop have a photo with everyone here? That would be really nice.
Yeah, let's do it, yeah.